I never imagined the shocking betrayals of Rome could stem from sibling rivalry. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun shone bright and unforgiving, casting long shadows across the cobbled streets. Laughter echoed, but my heart felt heavy, like a stone sinking in dark waters. That day, I watched my brother Marco, his face twisted in a mix of rage and jealousy, as he confronted our sister, Eliana. Her eyes, normally so lively, were brimming with tears. The tension crackled, urgent, almost Olivia's if the air itself held its breath. In Rome, family ties are sacred. My parents taught us that. They always reminded us of loyalty, of blood being thicker than water. But as I stood in that moment, every lesson felt like a cruel joke. I had never seen my brother like this. We had shared toys, secrets, and dreams. Now all I saw was betrayal in his eyes. It felt like a chasm opened between us, dark and terrifying. I glanced at Eliana, her trembling hands clutching a necklace that once brought our family together. It shimmered like a cursed relic. It was supposed to hold our memories, but now only seemed to amplify the rift. I could feel the panic rising within me, a tight knot in my chest. How could it come to this? I wanted to scream. I wanted to run and hide, but my feet were glued to the ground. Marco's voice, trembling yet fierce, cut through the air. You think you can take everything from me? You think Mom and Dad would choose you over me? The accusation hung there, thick and poisonous. The words echoed in my ears. Outside the shadows of our family home, the bustling crowd paused, eyes darting towards us. So many eyes. I could feel their judgment, whispers curling around my skin like a chill. Look at them, I heard someone murmur, shock clear in their tone. Another added, it's their own fault. But was it? Did we let envy worm its way into our lives so deeply? My mind raced. No, we're a family. I blurted out, my voice raw. The hope surged within me, but it felt so small, so fragile. Just then, a piece of parchment clutched tightly in Eliana's fist fell to the cobblestones. The world quieted as it fluttered down, the silence deafening. My heart raced, anticipation and terror gripping me simultaneously. What secret did it hold? Before I could ask, I noticed the look in Marco's eyes. It was almost frantic, an urge to stop Eliana from revealing whatever was on that paper. Why? I took a breath, my palms clammy, feeling the weight of the moment closing in around me, helpless to bridge the escalating divide. The air was heavy with unspoken words, and I felt it surfacing, the tattoo of betrayal on my skin. Eliana opened her mouth, and the world around us spun on its axis. What truth was waiting to shatter us? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence stretched across the square, palpable and stifling, as Eliana's lips trembled. I barely registered the way Marco's hands tightened into fists, like he was preparing to contest the very air between us. My heart pounded violently within my chest, each beat echoing the dread settling in my stomach. What are you hiding? I finally managed to whisper, my voice barely audible, lost amidst the muffled whispers of the crowd gathering around us. Their faces morphed from curious to judgmental. A swirling vortex of shame and empathy reached out, but ultimately felt foreign to me. Eliana lowered her eyes to the parchment on the ground. The moment lingered like a grain of sand caught in the Tidisa build-up of everything unsaid. It's not what you think, she began, though her voice quaked, betraying her my breath hitched. I watched as Marco stepped closer, a feral fierceness already sharpening his features. What's not what I think? Eliana, don't play games with me. His temper transformed him, morphing the brother I once adored into someone almost unrecognizable. The innocence of our childhood memories washed away in the flood of mistrust and anger that now filled the air. Suddenly, a flicker of resolve ignited within me. "Stop! Just stop!" I shouted, surprising even myself with the strength of my own voice. "If we're going to do this, let's lay everything bare. Let's not make it worse." The crowd muttered, but I refused to glance at them. I was trapped in the whirlwind of my family's emotions, and the stakes felt almost too high. Eliana took a deep breath, bracing herself. "Okay, I'll tell you," she said, almost a whisper. "I found this letter after Mom passed. A letter addressed to me from her." My heart sank, split between curiosity and the gnawing fear of the unknown. "What does it say?" Marco snapped, impatience leaking into each word, his eyes darting between Eliana and the paper. Eager and terrified all at once, "It speaks of secrets." Eliana's voice faltered as she bent down to retrieve the parchment. "Secrets our family has concealed for years. And it doesn't matter," Marco interrupted, his voice echoing harshly across the square. What did she ever know? The invasive bitterness in his tone cut deep, sharper than any dagger. "She's gone. Learn to live with that." I could feel the heat surging through my veins, the anger bubbling forth as I wanted to demand Marco acknowledge the truth of our loss. But more than that, I needed to understand what Eliana had unearthed, what burdens she carried in her fragile frame. With trembling hands, she unfolded the parchment, the edges worn and frail like the memories it held. "Mom wrote that we were never supposed to take sides," she began. But even as I strained to hear the words, tears welled in her eyes. "What does that even mean?" Marco spat angrily, the bitterness consuming him. Each word piled on the weight. "What did she know that you didn't?" "Enough!" I cried, my frustration spilling over. "If you want to throw away everything we had because of jealousy, fine. But I'm not letting you tear us apart because of a lie." Eliana's tears fell down her cheeks like rain on wilted petals. "It's not a lie," she sobbed, clutching the letter close to her heart. "I didn't want this to hurt either of you. I hoped. But my hope began to falter. Suddenly, a figure broke through the thinning crowd, a woman I had not seen in years. It was Sophia, a childhood friend who had shared countless afternoons of laughter with us. My heart clenched at the sight. Love and concern filled her eyes, but there was something else: determination. She made her way to our circle, her presence igniting a flicker of warmth amid the storm brewing all around us. "You have to listen," she urged, breathless from the urgency of the moment. "I overheard something that's important, something you don't know about your family." Marco stiffened, his posture shifting as he turned his attention to her. "You think we need to hear from you?" "No, but you need to know." Her voice surged with fervor, cutting through the tension like a blade. "You need to understand why. This matters, the truth behind your parents. Eliana, you must read that letter." "But what truth?" Eliana's voice trembled as she stepped back, the parchment shaking in her grip. Sophia's eyes held a somber gravity, as if the weight of everything that had happened shifted onto her shoulders. "There's more at stake here than you realize. Will you trust me just this once?" "I hardly know who to trust anymore," Marco muttered bitterly, his eyes darting between us. The air pulsed with uncertainty as I grappled with the mounting tension, a mixture of dread and hope simmering just below the surface. I felt the ground shift beneath me, the fabric of our family unraveling in ways I could never have imagined. In that moment, Eliana's hands clenched the parchment tighter, her determination solidifying. I could see determination overpowering her fear. If this letter holds a truth that could mend us, then so be it. I'm ready to face whatever it says. Moments stretched like shadows, rejecting the brightness of the sun above. I felt the precariousness of our situation as I watched Eliana take a step forward, the fragile thread that linked our lives unraveling, inch by precious inch. Little did we know, the revelation that awaited us could change everything, even the very essence of who we were and what we thought we understood about our family. Eliana slowly unfolded the fragile parchment as the crowd's hushed anticipation enveloped us. I held my breath, wishing in vain for time to freeze. What secret could a simple letter hold that might not only expose the fractures within our family, but also shake the very ground beneath our feet. As she began to read the words, her voice trembled, heavy with waning hope and fear. To my dearest Eliana, if you are reading this, then it means I am no longer with you. Her voice faltered at the weight of her mother's absence, each word a reminder of the irrevocable loss. Marco's anger flared as he stepped closer, his fists clenching even tighter. What more could she say that would make any difference? She abandoned us. Marco, please, I implored, the sincerity surging through me. Just listen, Eliana continued, her tone steadier as she pressed through the letter. There are truths I have kept from you, truths that could change the way you see our family and each other. Please know that my love for you both is eternal. But there are things you must understand. Secrets hidden can fester, turning into wounds that refuse to heal. My heart raced. What secrets? I stole a glance at Marco but found only hostility reflected back. Secrets? What is this? A melodrama? He scoffed, the bitterness in his voice palpable. Eliana's eyes glistened with unshed tears, her gaze unwavering. It's not a melodrama, Marco. It's our life. It's our past. She mentions a grave mistake, a choice that changed everything for us. Two just need to know what it is. With a sudden, defiant urgency, she urged, Sophia, please, if there is something you know, let's not let this moment pass. Sophia took a breath as the crowd thrummed with growing tension, confusion, excitement, each emotion crackling in the air. I overheard a conversation between your parents long ago during a family gathering. They argued over a secret that connected their pasts of betrayal, something regarding your mother's first love. What does that even mean? Marco barked, the desperation in his voice evident as he brushed away the notion of any familial ties beyond us three. We need to focus on what we have now. Mom is gone. She's out of the picture. Is she really gone, though? Sophia countered, stepping closer. There's a part of her that might still be alive in this letter, in these truths. What if this betrayal isn't just hers? What if it's a family legacy? Maybe this could help you understand. Eliana's voice quivered as she read on, words flowing into each other like notes in a tortured melody. I made a choice once, and keeping it hidden from you two felt easier than exposing the truth. Your lives, however, will always be intertwined with a family history forged in bitterness. With each syllable, the air thickened as we all wrestled with this revelation, the weight of it all leaving us breathless. Stop! Marco shouted suddenly, the desperation boiling over into anger. You think by reading this you will understand? How could you ever understand? She never even told us. That was the moment when the world outside faded into silence. All I could hear was the beat of my own heart, pounding a rhythm that echoed my rising anxiety. What else does she say? Eliana's brow furrowed as she gazed at the paper, taking a steadying breath. It says there was a choice between loyalty and love. Something that could break our family apart if revealed. A sudden gust of wind whipped through the square, carrying with it the remnants of our childhood, the laughter, the secrets, the bonds we had forged in innocence. It felt like ghosts whispering in our ears, reminding us of everything we stood to lose. A choice? Marco ground out, his face pallid. What do you mean, a choice? There was someone your mother loved deeply, someone she lost before she met Dad. All of this revolves around a betrayal of sorts, Eliana said, her voice steadying as if she finally grasped the gravity of their mother's untold story. The air itself felt charged, electric with the before and after of what this could mean for us. I wanted to reach out to Marco, to bring him closer, to hold us in that shared dread, but could I? There was a page of family history that had been kept from us, twisting our perception, and we stood on the brink of understanding even while perilously hanging onto a past that may or may not remain intact. Enough, Marco shouted in despair, stepping back as if struck. I don't want to hear this. I don't care about her love, it's just an excuse. I want answers, not this cryptic mess. In that instant, Eliana's resolve faltered, collapsing into vulnerability. But what if this is our chance, Marco? She ventured, her voice threading the air with delicate hope. What if we can fix this? Fix what? He spat, his walls closing like a fortress as fury raged behind his eyes. You think whatever's on that letter can actually change what's been done? Our mother is gone, Eliana. She's left us with nothing but the wreckage of her secrets. Before Eliana could respond, Sophia's gaze grew wide, a realization dawning. Wait, your mother's letter speaks of a name. There must be something hidden within it, something more. We can find out the people she kept from you. Why would I want to know more? Marco growled. They had their chance. Then why do they need to be part of our lives now? Because it's part of the puzzle, I whispered, the hope flickering back into being. We can't heal without understanding what really happened. If there's someone out there who holds the key, the sentence hung in the air for a heartbeat longer, the enormity of it dawning on all of us. What if there really was someone else? A living connection to the mother we all lost in different ways, a reminder that betrayal could flow through blood just as strongly as loyalty did. Then, Marco hissed, eyes blazing, let's get it over with and see just how deep this betrayal really goes and just who's waiting to step into our lives now. As the last word tumbled from his lips, I felt a chill race down my spine. Because that moment echoed like a death knell, and with it came the haunting realization. Once we unearthed this hidden past, we might not be together for long anyway. Before we set foot down that path, I knew I had to stand firm, to hold the bittersweet memory of our mother close. Because soon, the truth had the potential to shatter us all. Eliana clutched the letter tightly, its edges working into her skin, while her heart battled with indecision. It was as if the parchment burned against her palm, reminding her that every word, every secret, could reshape their lives irrevocably. Marco shifted impatiently beside her, each tick of his foot against the ground striking like a countdown, leaving us suspended in an unbearable silence. Look, Marco finally exhaled, his frustration palpable. Let's just read the rest. Whatever it says, we can handle it together. I guess we owe it to hear our Silvesto know the truth. The concession felt like a heavy stone dropping into the pit of my stomach, a flickering light revealing the crevices of our long-standing resentment. Eliana nodded slowly, a sense of steely determination seeping into her voice as she resumed reading. The crowd fell into an expectant hush, the air steeped in the weight of collective anticipation. And as I wrote these words, I felt the weight of the burden I have carried alone for so long. I prayed for the day you learn of the love I lost, the choices each of us made, and how they swept us into a tide of secrecy. I saw Marco's shoulders tighten as Eliana continued, her voice unwavering despite the heaviness of the moment. Understand that my love for you both has always been pure, but it was overshadowed by actions driven by my own fears. I lost so much to keep you safe? Marco scoffed again, unable to contain his emotions. Anger dripped from his words, mingled with something brittle and raw. She chose to keep us in the dark while she dealt with her own demons. She wanted to protect us from the cost of her choices, but who protected us from the pain of her absence? Who cared about that? With a newfound resolve, Eliana forged ahead, seeking the truth forged in her mother's ink. It goes deeper, Marco. She talks about a connection, an old flame she didn't just let go. The name she wanted to shield us from was Giacomo. The revelation cracked through the tension like fragile glass breaking. The name reverberated through the air like a haunting melody, each syllable pregnant with meaning. I knew the name. Giacomo was whispered among our family, spoken in reverent tones. An old boyfriend of our mother's, the one who had seemingly vanished without a trace before she had met our father. But I had never understood the depths of that absence. Jacoho? Marco's hard exterior melted for just a heartbeat, confusion flooding his features. What does that mean for us? A ghost from her past will not fix anything. That's the point, Eliana insisted. Perhaps secrets were meant to be buried, but what if we can reach out, understand who he was? There might still be a chance to learn why she had to make the choices she made. A beat passed as we stood at that precipice, caught between clarity and a disorienting fog. There was an unexpected silence that threaded through us, and for a moment, I felt the heaviness of the past rippling like water beneath our feet. Each of us held the memories that colored our perspectives. Angry exchanges at family dinners, laughter that danced like fireflies, and now, underneath unspoken betrayal. I'll admit I just wanted to stand on the safe ground of what we knew, what we still have. Marco's voice wavered for the first time, almost unconsciously. But you're saying that if we dig further, we might understand her better. The subtle shift in his demeanor was like an ember igniting hope amidst ashes. I sensed something new forming beneath the surface, a tentative willingness to confront the shadows. Yes, and it could give us insight into ourselves, I whispered, my heart pounding louder. Or it could tear us apart. Marco shot back, the defenses rising rapidly again. Unexpectedly, a gentle hand rested on Marco's shoulder, Sophia stepping forward. Maybe, she said softly, but sometimes the truth is worth the risk. It's not the abandonment we should be focusing on but the love bound up in all of this. Love? Marco scoffed without conviction. Is that what you call it? Love that led to lies and now back to betrayal? Yet Sophia remained steady, unwavering. Isn't that the definition of family? It's messy and complicated. It's okay to falter, to be human. But if you push everyone away, how do you expect to heal? As the words settled in the stillness, I felt a flickering warmth, the idea that kindness could shine through the cracks, illuminating the path forward. That I am terrified, Eliana admitted quietly, shattering the silence that filled the air with mounting unease. But I can't just turn my back on my mother's choices without understanding them. It's a part of me too, isn't it? Yeah, Marco eventually murmured, the edge of pain kneading at the corners of his voice. But we have to tread carefully. Another gust of wind picked up, rustling leaves and sending them swirling around us. The moment was both liberating and suffocating. A reminder that while we yearned for truth, the cost could shatter the remnants holding us together. And my heart raced as Eliana folded the letter, its message still a lingering ache. We should find Giacomo, she decided, voice trembling but resolute. If he's alive, he could help us piece this together. But before I could voice my concerns or even my fears, the ground beneath us quaked slightly, rumbles reverberating from a distance as if the earth itself conspired with our burgeoning chaos. A figure appeared in the distance, framed against the fading sunlight, a man with an unmistakable gaze. One that held a story unto itself yet left questions anxiously dancing in the air. Giacomo? My breath hitched as I exchanged frantic looks with Eliana and Marco. The moment we feared had arrived, cloaked in mystery, bursting with possibility, yet deeply rooted in the uncharted territories of pain and betrayal. And just as I thought of reaching out for Eliana's hand, the space between us felt impossibly vast, the ground both solid and trembling beneath our shaky footing. We were teetering on the edge of truth, propelled by the specter of a family formless and fractured, unsure of whether reconciliation was within our grasp or merely the shattering of a beautiful illusion. As the figure approached, shadows stretched across our path like dark tendrils slipping from the cloak of twilight. The air thickened with tension as Eliana, Marco, and I exchanged panicked glances, each of us caught in a dance of curiosity and dread. My heart raced not just from the looming presence, but from the realization that if Giacomo was indeed standing before us, the fissures in our family history were about to widen. What do we do? I whispered, my voice barely breaking through the suffocating quiet. Eliana was the first to gather her courage. We had a choice to make, didn't we? This is a part of our search for answers. Her words ignited a flicker of strength, yet the tremor in her voice revealed how wounded she felt beneath her resolute facade. Marco remained hyper-aware, fists clenched tightly at his sides. The man's stride was slow and deliberate, his features gradually emerging from the Shadowsa chiseled jaw, a sprinkling of silver in his dark hair, and eyes that bore a depth of wisdom and sorrow both haunting and arresting. He drew closer, scanning our faces as if searching for familiar echoes of a long-lost past. Who are you? Marco's voice came out sharper than he intended, cutting through the tense atmosphere like a knife. Giacomo, came the reply, simple yet laden with meaning. To think I've been looking for you. To his words flowed with an inexplicable weight, sending ripples of uncertainty through us. Eliana stepped forward, the letter in her hands trembling with every beat of her heart. My mother wrote of you. She said you were someone important. Important? Giacomo repeated, his expression softening. That's one way to put it, perhaps. But I carried the burden of being nothing more than a youthful mistake, a consequence of choices made long ago. The air between us vibrated with a mix of guilt and longing. I could feel Marco's resolve beginning to fracture. The lines of hurt etched across his face, shifting to reveal something deeper. "We deserve to know the truth about our mother," he uttered quietly, a hint of desperation seeping through. Understanding flickered in Giacomo's gaze. "Your mother, she loved you fiercely. But love, as you're learning, can weave tangled webs. I was part of that web. I want to help you untangle it." "Why now?" Eliana asked, words laced with suspicion. "Why did you wait so long to reveal yourself?" "Because," he breathed, taking a step closer. "I was afraid. I held pain, too, in my heart since I lost her. But when I heard the name of your mother, when I found out her children were searching for me, felt this pull. Like the time had come to face the ghosts of our past." As he spoke, I felt a strange connection forming. Was it possible he could bridge the chasm carved by years of silence? I stole a glance at Marco, who looked like someone standing at the edge of a steep cliff, uncertain whether to leap. "We need answers," I said, my voice steadier now as I took a small step toward Giacomo. "Can you tell us what happened? Why she chose the path she did?" With a nod, Giacomo began to speak, his voice deep with emotion. "There was a time when your mother and I were young, lost and daring. I was the love that filled her heart before she made a life in another direction. Decisions were wrapped in duties, in family expectations, but none of it meant she forgot me. I left because I thought it was for the best." His gaze fell, his burdens surfacing like ocean waves crashing against rocky shores. "But love isn't something one can choose to erase." "Then why not come back to her?" Marco pressed, desperation creeping into his tone. "Because sometimes coming back means unearthing wounds that never healed, and I was terrified I'd only bring more pain." Fragile silence engulfed us, and I instinctively stepped forward with Eliana. Each of us caught between forgiveness and anger, history and hope. It was almost suffocating, knowing that this man could be the key to pieces of our mother we had only glimpsed through shadows. Suddenly, a loud crash interrupted our moment, pulling our attention from Giacomo, drawing startled gasps from all corners. The ground trembled anew, and then I saw a flicker of movement from the depths of the surrounding trees. An explosion of branches, a sound reminiscent of a fight unfolding, erupted between the trunks, seemingly ferocious enough to swallow the fading light. Panic surged as we turned to face the commotion. "What is happening?" Eliana exclaimed, her voice reflecting the rising anxiety visible on Marco's face. Before Giacomo could answer, the thundering of footsteps grew closer, heavy and relentless. Then, a figure emerged from the underbrush, covered in dirt and debris, wide-eyed as he staggered into view. The dark visage held not fear, but an unmistakable gravitas that sent ripples of recognition through the air. My heart plummeted. "Not him," I breathed, staggering back as shock washed over me. "Is that father?" Marco completed the thought, his expression twisting into turmoil. Dread spread like wildfire as the realization dawned. What could this man who had been painted in our memories as the absent protector potentially reveal? And why had he emerged now, as truths began to unravel? The stakes had just heightened impossibly, and the past felt primed to collide with everything we had ever known. As darkness reclaimed the sky, we stood, intertwined by blood yet haunted by secrets, each breath pregnant with uncertainty, waiting for the revelations ahead to shape or shatter our fragile family ties. The air was heavy with anticipation, the remnants of the confrontation with Giacomo clinging to us like damp fog. The sight of our father, disheveled and wild-eyed, anchored the moment in a surreal stillness that felt almost dreamlike. Marco and I exchanged glances, a silent language passing between us, a mixture of disbelief and a longing for clarity amidst our already shaken world. How is he here?" Marco's voice was strained, battling between confusion and anger, and I held my breath, locked in this unexpected twist of fate. Giacomo's expression turned to one of pained recognition as he locked eyes with our father. "Luciano," he uttered, the name coded in 1,000 stories left unspoken. Luciano shifted his weight, as if the ground beneath him was uncertain, thoughts spiraling in his mind. "I was looking for you, Giacomo. I've come to make amends," he said awkwardly, and there, Beneath the weight of his words lay the unmistakable tremor of vulnerability that had eluded him for so long. Amends? Giacomo's voice was low, edged with bitterness. Is that what you call abandoning your children? Leaving us to question our worth, our very existence? I watched as Marco clenched his fists tighter, knuckles whitening with every word exchanged. You both chose silence, letting our family unravel, only to return now when the truth threatens to emerge. Why now? After all these years? His questions flew like sharp arrows, aimed true in their bitterness. Our father's dark eyes darted from Giacomo to us, the shadows of doubt creeping in. I was afraid of the consequences of my choices. I failed to protect you. I thought distancing myself could shield you from the pain. The words fell flat like defeated banners, and I felt a flicker of anger ignite in me. But it didn't, did it? My voice echoed through the tension, quaking with emotion. You left us tangled in a web of hurt, and now you stand here, pretending it's that simple? An awkward silence fell upon us, heavy and oppressive, as the weight of our shared histories began to crack the barriers we'd built around our hearts. The air crackled with a mixture of fear, anger, and a desire for understanding that seemed nearly unreachable. Suddenly, Eliana stepped forward, her voice trembling but fierce. You all keep talking about the past, your choices, your fears. But what about us? What about what we've been through? Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears, pupils wide with a heart that demanded to be heard. We're still here, and we're desperate for answers, pathetically desperate. Luciano's face contorted, pain flashing across his features as if each word Eliana uttered cut him deeper, revealing layers of a guilt he had buried for too long. I never wished to hurt you. You have to understand the night I left. It was a choice I made to protect you from Giacomo. From the truth. What truth? Marco's voice cracked as he encouraged our father to open the door to a past so reverberant it echoed back to us. He was not the only one eager for clarity. I found myself yearning for a connection that felt so intricately frayed. Your mother loved me, Luciano whispered, his voice barely audible over the rustle of leaves. But her connection with Giacomo was something I felt I had to end. I couldn't let her drag you both into that life, a life tangled with past mistakes. These realizations felt like shards of glass, glimmering with possibility yet dangerous enough to draw blood. They were truths wielded in fear but veiled in deception. We stood facing a man who had painted love in broad strokes yet built a fortress of secrets, each wall specked with his own failures. So you thought leaving would be the best choice? Eliana's tone, while laced with disbelief, offered a glimmer of the compassion we yearned to hold on to. No. He spat, raw regret layering his tone. I was a fool, a foolish coward. There was a softness underlying his rage, despair etched into the lines of his weathered face, an acknowledgement of the turmoil our lives had become. And yet, as those words hung in the air, threatening to pull at the fraying edges of our shared fabric, I felt something shift deep within me. With sudden clarity, the world around us felt less tangible, more surreal. Trees that bore witness seemed to sway in sympathy with our confrontation. What if our true enemy isn't Giacomo? I murmured, voice trembling with the weight of a revelation. What if it's the fear that has shackled us in silence and secrecy? Maybe that's the real betrayal? The honesty nestled among the chaos prompted a thicker silence, allowing the secrets within our hearts to breathe and that heartbeat of time. A glimmer of understanding passed through Giacomo's gaze. The man he had tried to shield us from was now interwoven with our story, and it became apparent that to confront the ghosts of the past, we must gather the courage to forge new connections, regardless of how painful the resolve. Together. He sighed, a single word steeped in warmth. We can unravel this history. You deserve to know everything. But before we could respond, an unsettling howl echoed from the distance, sending a shiver of dread cascading through me. There was more lurking in those shadows than just the demons of our family. There were raw threats, and the winds of change were about to stir. And then, just as the night began to close around us like a lover's embrace ready to attend to the wounds of the heart, the ground trembled once more. A shadow appeared at the edge of the tree line, one that sent our pulse racing anew. Maybe I wasn't the only one looking for you after all, came a voice from the dark, cruel and familiar. My stomach dropped as I recognized the figure approaching. A silhouette that threatened to redefine everything we thought we knew. The truth of Rome and our family lineage hung precariously in the balance, teetering on the brink of oblivion. It was clear. The real betrayals were just beginning to surface, and they were darker than we could ever have imagined. The ominous figure stepped forward, and recognition slammed into me like a tidal wave. It was Alessio, our older brother, the one we were told had vanished from our lives like a specter, a ghost casting long shadows over our shared history. The memories of bedtime stories and laughter, which had punctuated our childhood, twisted into something darker at the sight of him. Alessio? The name escaped my lips, a fragile whisper caught in a throat tight with disbelief. He looked different, hardened, haunted, as if a storm had carved lines into his face that we'd never had the chance to see. Eyes once so full of mischief now glinted with something much more complex. A riddle of lost loyalty and hidden truths. Surprised to see me? His voice dripped with sarcasm, that familiar lilt now slick with bitterness. You should be. The air was thick with confusion and raw energy as Marco stepped forward, fists clenched at his sides, guarding against the familiarity of feelings that had once bonded them as brothers. What are you doing here, Alessio? We thought you were gone for good. Gone? No, just biding my time. I had my reasons, he replied, his gaze darting between Luciano and Giacomo, each name a chapter of hurt that had been left festering. Seems I was right to stay hidden. You all have created quite the mess without me. Do you hear yourself? Eliana punctured through the swirling tension. You think running away is the solution? That hiding in the shadows is better than confronting our hell? We're not here to rehash old grudges, Giacomo interjected, his voice trembling with barely contained anger. What's done is done. We're trying to make sense of the past together. Oh, how noble, Alessio scoffed, closing the distance between us, invading the fragile sphere of safety we had just begun to create. And what makes you think that past doesn't include me? You think you can simply rewrite history and omit my part in it? The coldness in his tone did not just rattle me. It threatened to unravel the piece we had barely begun to stitch together. Where have you been, Alessio? I forced the words out, needing to peel back the layers of his story as much as I despised the ache of wanting a connection, any connection, with the brother I barely knew anymore. Does it matter? He shot back, his irritation palpable. What matters is that you're all still tangled in this web that doesn't just include Giacomo's choices or Luciano fleeing like a coward. You're hosting the poison that drips from the roots of our family tree, and you don't even know it. Stop, I said, using every ounce of defiance buried inside me. If you're here to help, then help. We can't keep playing blame games like children. For a moment, his fury flickered, as if a flicker of recognition danced behind his eyes. Just beneath the anger lurked pain, a deep current of hurt that echoed my own. Help? What do you think I can do? You're all too deep in your own stories. This togetherness is just a disguise for fear that I am not afraid of anything. Marco shouted, but I could see it in his eyes, the fissures running deeper than either of us could ignore. Really? Alessio's laugh was cold and humorless. Then tell me why you've never bothered to learn what really happened between us? Why it took you this long to reach for even the most basic truths? His accusations struck like arrows, piercing through the thin veil of unity we were trying to weave. I felt the tension shift again, the collective breaths between us quickening, hearts racing. The walls of silence we'd lived behind were beginning to crumble, but in their place lurked shadows that could swallow us whole. Because we were protecting ourselves, I admitted, the confession pouring out like a breaking dam. I wanted to forget the pain. It was easier than facing the ghosts of the past. Easier? Alessio scoffed. You think that's the answer? Your avoidance has given rise to nightmares, and believe me, they're just waiting for the right moment to drag you back to where they began. In that moment, Luciano stepped forward, his voice shaky as he confronted his firstborn. I never meant for this to happen, Alessio. I was protecting all of you, but maybe I just ran away instead. You don't get to decide what's protection when it's always been your fear that chains us down. Alessio erupted, the stormy clouds in his eyes reflecting the turmoil erupting within us all. Maybe you've all allowed this to spiral because you're all so busy fighting shadows that you can't see you're losing each other. His words landed among us with startling clarity. Yet before we could forge a response, a distant growl reached our ears, again disrupting the awakening possibilities of understanding. This time, it felt closer, more threatening, a reminder of the darkness alive in the world beyond the fragile firelight of our conversation. "Alessio," I said, fear threading my voice, "if you're part of this, then why are you really here?" "The same reason as always," he replied, eyes gleaming with an unsettling ferocity. "To unravel the fabric of pain you've all built." But also he paused, swallowing hard, "to protect you from what's coming. This darkness isn't just a specter. It's real, and it's hunting you." As the night deepened around us, the trees standing witness to our unraveling, I felt the weight of his warning seep into my bones. There was a connection for Minga tapestry of fear, hope, and betrayal that had begun long before us. Anxiety tightening its grip once more, and the shadows lurked more than just the ghosts of family. I could feel a threat more immediate than any of us dared to confront. And as Tenebrae swallowed the sweet air of possibility, it became all too clear. Understanding this legacy would take more than mere words. It would demand that we unearth the darkest truths and face an uncertain future. The night wore on heavy with anticipation, our breath merging with the cool breeze that twisted between the trees like the secrets we couldn't voice. Alessio's warnings stirred something deep within me, a fear that gnawed at my resolve, each word a crack in the foundation of the momentary connection we were trying to forge. "What do you mean it's hunting us?" I pressed, needing clarity amidst the swirling shadows of uncertainty. "It's not what you think," he replied, stepping back, a newly found distance grounding his next words. "It's not a thing. It's a consequentia reckoning for the unfinished business of our family. Every lie holds weight, and you can't ignore that anymore." Marco stepped forward, crossing the fragile line between fear and anger. "So what? We're supposed to just sit here and let this darkness seep into our lives? You're the one who disappeared, Alessio. You think this is our fault?" Alessio's gaze hardened, a wall descending between us as he deflected Marco's hurt with an unyielding stare. "I didn't choose to leave just for me. Sometimes the bravest thing is to step away when you can't fight for yourself or for others. Or maybe you've just chosen cowardice." Marco shot back, his voice strained, the cracks between us widening. "If you really cared, stop," Eliana interjected, an unexpected softness lacing her voice. "Fighting among ourselves gets us nowhere. We need to focus on what's been said, what's at stake." Before anyone could respond, the growl echoed once more, deeper and more menacing, crawling under our skin like a chill laced with recognition. This time, it wasn't the shadows that illuminated the truth. It was the instinctual dread in my gut that acknowledged something was drawing near. What if I barely managed to breathe out what bubbled forth like molten truth? What if this darkness isn't just from outside? What if it's us? The group fell silent, each face representing the collision of fear and realization. Alessio's posture stiffened. Giacomo's expression fell to a troubled frown. The thought slid around like a snake in the grass, suggesting that perhaps the poison Alessio spoke of wasn't merely rooted in our family history, but was something festering between us now, stemming from the divided loyalties, the unspoken resentments, and the admission of guilt that clung to our skin. Were we all complicit in our own shadows? "Can we stop this?" I implored, looking into each pair of eyes, searching for a glimmer of understanding, a willingness to retreat from the brink of conflict. If we can confront our own truths, the things we've kept hidden, maybe we can find a way to fight back whatever this is. "That's assuming we have the same truths," Alessio murmured, his gaze steady and almost compassionate, "but the history between us paints a messier picture. You think we can come back together just because the world outside is threatening? Truth is, you may not even want to look at those shadows." Luciano shook his head, fighting against the past that threatened to lay claim to the moment. "You think I haven't wrestled with those shadows? You think you're the only one who carries burdens, Alessio? We all do. It's not merely about returning. It's about fixing what was broken." "Fixing?" Alessio's tone rose slightly, anger creeping back in. "And what if that means digging up the dirt none of you are ready to face? Would you tear apart what is left?" Are the ties that bind us strong enough to withstand the truths lurking beneath? Before anyone could answer, another noise erupted from the nearby underbrush, a fierce horde that drew attention with growls mingling with the unmistakable sound of branches snapping. Something unseen prowled, the heaviness in the air thickening as fear began to diffuse into raw adrenaline. "Stay close," Marco commanded, taking a protective stance, the brother within him ignited by instinct as he reached for Eliana. Giacomo took a step forward, alignment sparking as we all pressed toward one another, the flickering light of our campfire throwing shadows that danced against the encroaching dark. But just as hope flickered in the tightening circle, Alessio took a step back, eyes widening with dread. "No, get back. You don't understand, it wants you." "Wants us?" I echoed, fear threading through my spine as silence suspended time itself for an eternity. "Your fear is the bait," he shouted, voice fraying with urgency. "It wants to feed on the darkness within." In that moment, the shadows shifted, and the growls morphed into a roar that sent ice racing through my veins. The darkness surged forward, morphing into a silhouette of jagged teeth and glinting eyes that glowed with insatiable hunger. The air crackled and time warped as a relentless force threatened to swallow us whole, and as the ground trembled beneath my feet, the biting realization seized me once more. The darkness wasn't simply a specter lurking outside. It thrived on the struggles we harbored inside. As we stared into the maw of impending chaos, we would have to confront not only this relentless beast lurking in the night, but also the tumultuous legacy forged by ties that could falter or bind us forever. The growl morphed into something more, a bone-chilling howl that vibrated through the very ground we stood upon. It was more than a warning. It was a manifesto of our own vulnerability laid bare in front of us. In that fleeting moment, I felt the tremor of ancient echoes, all the untold secrets and buried truths rising like ghosts. Just as the figure lunged from the shadows, time seemed to split around me, heart hammering in my chest, and all I could think was that our frayed bonds would either save us or pull us down with the weight of our shared darkness. Marco's arm tightened around Eliana, pulling her closer as an instinctual barrier against whatever lurked beyond the firelight. "Stand together," he shouted, voice resolute in a way I had never fully appreciated until now. But just as the fear surged within me, gnawing at my composure, I caught a glimpse of Alessio, his face a mask of conflicted emotions: fear, regret, determination. In that instant, clarity washed over me. If we were to survive this onslaught, we needed to confront the shadows within, the very ones that had held us hostage, shaping years of bitter silence into a rancorous void. "Alessio," I called, my voice breaking through the furious chaos of the moment. "You knew this was coming, don't you see? We need to face it together, or it will consume us." His gaze met mine, uncertainty wrestling with a flicker of hope behind his penetrating eyes. "You don't understand what you're asking," he shouted back, but I forced myself to step closer, forcing the distance we had created. "You're right. I don't understand," I admitted, pushing past all the layers of dysfunction. "But I refuse to let it end like this. All this pain, it has to mean something. We have to expose the truth. All of it. Not just the darkness, but our love for one another. The things we've hidden behind these walls we built." There was a long pause as fear collided with what felt like the slivers of trust still binding us together. Giacomo's brows furrowed, the tension wrapping around him like a shroud of memories he was desperate to escape. Are we really going to peel back the skin of our scabs just as we face something that wants to eat us? He questioned, voice hoarse. "Maybe it's the only way we escape it," I replied earnestly, my heart aching for the recognition of the fight within him. "If we don't confront what lies beneath, we'll always be nursing these wounds. I know what you've done, and I know what I've done. We can't shy away from that. Only then can we overcome either the darkness outside or the darkness within." Just then, a piercing scream erupted from Eliana, echoing through the night and jolting us from our contemplative spiral. A flash of silver fur shot past her, a flicker of movement that was swallowed by the darkness in an instant. "Eliana!" Marco roared, fear rendering him frenzied as he surged forward. "Oh!" she cried, her voice laced with panic as she braced herself. "Don't! But it was too late. In a heartbeat, the creature lunged again, this time toward Marco. Each pair of eyes went wide as he was rocked backward, slamming into the ground. I gasped as the dark figure coiled back, revealing its true form, a mass of shadows woven together, creating a chaotic amalgamation of grief and despair. And that chaos. Alessio stepped forward, arms outstretched in an unexpected act of bravery, as if offering to shield his siblings from the horror we all felt. "You want us," he bellowed into the abyss of shadow. "Then you will face what we carry. Our burdens are ours to bear, but we are stronger together." The creature recoiled slightly, as if it could sense the heartbeat of our grief, our secrets, and the tangled web of love that encompassed us. I watched as fear transformed into something more profound, a shared understanding that we were not just expendable shadows, but entities woven together by love and loss. That flicker of hope ignited in me, spurring me on. "Stand unified. Face it," I proclaimed, my voice echoing with determination as I joined Alessio, stepping forward to bolster our collective strength. But what we conjured wasn't power, it was vulnerability. As the growls of the beast intensified, I felt the weight of all our past choices converge, the secrets we had kept grappling with, our need for survival. Then came the shifting moment, the sharp inhale of revelation. "The secrets," I stammered, the fraying edges of my composure igniting into a blaze of truth. "It's not just our fear it feeds on. It's our betrayals. Each lie in this circle strengthens it." Alessio's eyes widened, and for a flicker of eternity, the game shifted. If we were to bear the truth of ourselves, the darkness looming wouldn't be the only thing at stake. As I stood fierce alongside my siblings, bracing against the cold chaos, I realized that if we didn't unveil our hidden grievances, a new betrayal was brewing, far more dangerous than the creature prowling outside. With that frightening revelation settling into the core of my being, I sensed something shifting behind me. It was a whisper, a fleeting revelation, but it hung heavy with consequences. Just as I turned, a voice, soft yet terrifyingly familiar, escaped the edges of the forest. "You thought you could run from all this?" And as the shadows crept closer, the figure emerged, a face from our past. A figure we had buried long ago, igniting the swift dread of all that had been left unresolved. The beast's growl faded, but the true horror of facing both the external and the internal darkness loomed over us now. I stood frozen, my breath trembling in the silence. Moments trickled by like sand through my fingers, and the world narrowed into that singular moment of dread, undulating with the weight of betrayal we hadn't imagined could stem from the very bonds that connected us. I never imagined the shocking betrayals of Rome could stem from sibling rivalry. In the shadows of that betrayal, we stood together, the remnants of family, intertwined by the very secrets that threatened to unravel us. The face that emerged from the darkness belonged to not just any forgotten specter, but the one soul we believed we had lost forever, the one who might hold the key to all our questions. "Alessio. Alessio?" My voice trembled, echoing the disbelief that coursed through me. I had only known whispers of his name, tales woven into our family lore, both a ghost and a myth, the brother whose absence echoed through our lives, priming us for the pain to come. Yet, here I was, face to face with the reality I had never quite grasped. He looked older, hardened by a world that had not offered him kindness. His eyes searched ours, seeking recognition yet revealing the burden of loss too deep to mask. An uneasy silence enveloped us as the creature lurking in the dark recoiled slightly, sensing the vulnerability that had begun to bloom among usual of us, including Alessio. "What do you want?" Marco's voice cut through the tension, raw and simmering with hidden fears. Yet I noticed a flicker in his eyes, recognition sparked by the shared bond of blood. "Not what I want," Alessio replied, his tone heavy with an emotion I could not place. "What do you want? Do you wish for me to rewrite history in your favor, to absolve you of the sins you think you've inherited? Because it won't come easy." "Alessio," I implored, my heart racing as I fought to quell the panic rising in my chest. "We're already wrestling with everything that has been hidden. We need to understand together." "Together," he scoffed, but I sensed a fracture in his facade, a longing that mirrored my own. You don't know the half of it. Together was the lie that shattered the moment I walked away. What have you been running from? Eliana asked, stepping closer, her words laced with a mixture of anger and need. You can't keep hiding, Alessio. You're part of this family whether you accept it or not. But even as I spoke, my heart clenched. How naive we were to think we could demand his presence, force him into our narrative when his absence had carved scars we could hardly fathom. It wasn't just Alessio who was haunted. It was us all haunted by the echoes of our mother's choices, the burdens of our father's flight, and now, Alessio. The brother we had written stories about but never allowed to step back into the ink. He's right, Giacomo interjected, stepping in to confront the swelling wave of unresolved emotions threatening to engulf us. It's not that simple. The past isn't just a set of choices. It's a legacy. This darkness you feel isn't just lurking outside, waiting to bring you down. It's woven into your very existence. The shadows shivered, adjusting in response to the sentiment. I felt the truth in Giacomo's words thrum in harmony with my own fears, resonating within the depths of our gathering. It was painfully apparent. We weren't just facing an external monster. We were facing each other and the fractured bonds that tied us together. Why are you really here? I asked, desperation rising in my voice as I searched Alessio's eyes. What have you uncovered? What truth can you bring us? He hesitated, the silence heavy as tension unfurled around us, each breath a bridge to understanding. As the shadows loomed, twisting ever closer, I felt the echoes of our past shimmer in the corners of the dim light that I returned not for absolution, but for accountability for all of us. Alessio murmured, voice barely above a whisper yet heavy with meaning. You've each chosen your own hiding places. By avoiding the truths within, we've fed this shadow. It thrives on the discord within us and between us. A tremor surged through the crowd, a tangible manifestation of the truths hidden in plain sight, truths we had buried in fear of loss, in a desperate hope to escape the pain that had shaped us. But why was it that silence felt like a betrayal now? Why had we allowed ourselves to be so consumed by our secrets? Maybe I took a deep breath, forcing the heaviness from my chest to empower my words. Maybe we uncover those truths together. All of Usher and now. Our family can't heal while staring at ghosts, Giacomo added softly, his eyes scanning each of us in a way that doused our fears with sincerity. We must face what drives us apart, or we'll always be closing doors to our past instead of learning from it. Then what do we face first? Marco asked, the fight softening in his posture, leaning into the idea of vulnerability that had grown between us. What darkness breeds here? The fear of losing each other, Alessio finally admitted. I've run for so long, always afraid that my shadow would only bring more grief, more rifts. You're still here, though, I murmured, my heart racing as the connection deepened amidst the chaos. That means something. As if sensing the shift, the creature surged once more, darkness trailing like a tempest behind, its very presence lacing through our fears, threatening to pull us apart. Yet this time something stirred within me. A warmth blossomed as I wove through our entwined pain, understanding that with every honest word, we could turn back the darkness clawing to devour us whole. Fear lives in silence, I breathed. So let's unravel the silence. Let's confront what each of us knows and what we've lost. And with that declaration, I stepped fully into the circle, the warmth of my siblings surrounding me, mirroring the unity that had always eluded us. The shadows trembled, and I sensed a synergy sparking between us. Eliana stepped forward, her voice trembling but steady. We give voice to our grief. We embrace our histories. Alessio, you share yours and we will share ours. We won't hide anymore. As Alessio began to speak, his words flowed free, shared burdens weaving a tapestry of sorrows and hope intertwined. Stories surfaced, revealing choices made in defense against the darkness, wrought from love yet marked by loss. Each person stepped into the light of our truth, bearing the fears that had long kept them in chains, revelations shaping our very understanding of what family could be. And even as our hearts were laid bare, the growl that vibrated through the air began to ebb, drawn back by the acute power of connection. Together, we reached into the darkness, and as we faced it with unfaltering courage, we began to unravel its hold on us. Each confession ignited flames of understanding, lighting our way shadows vanquished by vulnerability, wounds stitched by empathy. With the last whispered words of an unexamined past, the dark creature faded into the void from which it had sprung, leaving only the warmth of our shared strength, a tangible reminder that love, however messy, held the power to heal. I glanced at my newfound family, realizing that this journey had been about more than the secrets we unearthed. It had become an act of reconciliation, not just with each other, but within ourselves. As the darkness receded, and dawn's golden light spilled over the cobbled streets of Rome, I smiled through tears, the past cementing itself into our story, illuminating our way forward. In that moment, I understood pain offered lessons, and love reshaped the endurance our hearts could bear. And with that thought echoing in my mind, I whispered softly, in the end, it wasn't the betrayals of blood that divided us, but the truths and love we carried that finally brought us home.